Okay, this is going to be a solution walkthrough to the credit score analysis MECC case. So this is a case all about credit scores. We have some personal data here, consumer ID, name, address, and we have some trade line data, which tells us a little bit about credit lines and credit inquiries, balances, credit limits, stuff like that. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start with the bonus questions. How many consumers are included in the personal data tab? So how many consumers do we have here? So there's a number of ways to do this. I can press Control Shift and down to highlight everything. Then in the bottom corner of my Excel, I can see the count is 501. I could also say equals rows and highlight that range to tell me how many there are. So the answer is 501. Okay, next up, what is the total amount of balance in the trade line data tab? We need to round this to the nearest whole number. So the trade line data tab, we're looking for the balance. So that's this column I. We want the sum of all the values there. Again, we can highlight this and look in the corner. We can see the sum. A little trick here is if you just click this number, it will actually copy it to the clipboard. You can then just paste it in here. So Control Shift V to paste values only. If I was to paste normally, it would overwrite the formatting. So we want to round this number. We could easily do this manually. That's one approach. An alternative way with a formula is to say equals sum of all of this balance data here. There's gaps in it, so it's a little bit tricky to get to the bottom. So an easier way is to scroll all the way down, shift click to get to the bottom, or just highlight the whole column and sum that. So that will give us the same answer. We need to round it, so we can wrap it in the round formula. So round, comma, the next argument is how many decimal places we want. We want 0 decimal places, and there we go. Okay, next up, what is the average credit limit in the trade line data tab? So this is exactly the same thing, but we're going to use an average instead of sum, and we're taking a different column. So we want to look in the credit limit column. So let's do it again. So let's build up step by step. We want the average of the credit limit. Let's press enter, and we need to round this number. So round to 0 decimal places, close our bracket, there we go. Okay, how many records are categorized by the industry bank card? So again, a number of ways to do this. I'll show you a couple of them. So we want this industry where it says bank card. First way, which is very simple, is to put a filter on this. So Control Shift down, Control Shift L will add a filter to the top. I could then go to industry bank card and highlight again everything here, and I can see the count here is 1658. That's one way to do it. Another way is to use the COUNTIF formula. So we can say COUNTIF. This will take a range and a criteria. So our range is this column D, and our criteria is that it says bank card. So in quotation marks, because we're working with text here, we can type bank card, and that will also count them the same value, 1658. Okay, the final bonus, how many records in the trade line data have a delinquency? A delinquency is any non-blank value other than current. So I think the easiest way to do this is to continue with our filter approach. We want to leave everything except current and blanks and count those. So if we highlight all of those, the count down the bottom is 92. Click that to copy it. Control Shift V to paste the values only. So that's all the bonuses. Hopefully you learned a few new tricks there. And now let's get into the questions. So question 1, we just want to know what the total loan balance is. So we need to sum all of these values. So equals sum. We can click here, Control Shift and the right arrow to go to the end of our range, press enter, and there we go. Question 2, we want to know what the oldest date is out of all of these ones given to us here. So dates underneath in Excel are just numbers, so we can use the minimum and maximum formulas like normal. We want the oldest one, so it's going to be the minimum date out of this range. So we have some gappy data here, so my Control Shift right arrow trick isn't going to the end, so I can just hold Shift and click right to the end to capture everything. And there we go, that's the minimum balance from each of these rows, i.e. the oldest date. Okay, next up we want the year of the oldest date. So very much the same thing. So let's start with that. Let's say minimum of here, Control Shift right, does that take us to the end? Yes, it does. And we want just the year, so the 2007 part. Well, we can just use a formula called year. So year of that date, we'll pull it out. It goes into a strange format here. Excel sometimes formats things as date. We can click this up here and go to general format again, double click this fill handle, and there we go. That's dynamically moving down, giving us all the years. Okay, question 4. We want to combine the consumer name and their address with a pipe in between. So again, there's a couple of ways to do this. The ampersand in Excel joins stuff, so we can say equals this. Ampersand, then we want a pipe, so we need to put that in quotation marks. So quotation marks, space, pipe, space, quotation marks, and this. So that is one way to do it. An alternative way is to use the text join formula. So we can say text join. First argument is what we want to join with, so that's going to be a space, a pipe, space in quotation marks. This is whether we want to ignore empty cells. I normally keep that as a true, so we'll say 1, or we could type true, either will work. And then we give it all of the text we want. So it's these two things. I'm holding control and clicking these to get them both into the formula. Close our bracket, that will do the same thing. Okay, level 5, this is where we're getting into lookups. So we have a consumer ID and we want to know what the address is. So essentially, given this ID 10268, we want to look in here, find the ID, and pull out the address. So this is exactly what a lookup formula will do. So XLOOKUP is probably the best one you can learn. So XLOOKUP, first argument is what you want to look for. I want to look for this number. So the next argument, so comma, is where we want to look for it. So we can just highlight this entire column B. We want to look for it in column B. The next argument is what we want to kind of return. So we want to look for it in column B and return whatever's in the same position in column E. So we highlight column E, and there we go. That is our answer. So drag that down, and question 5 is done. Okay, question 6. Now we're given a consumer ID, and we want to know what their total credit balance is. So that's in this train line data tab again. Let's remove our filter from our earlier bonus questions. And we're actually asked for the sum of a given consumer's balance here. So this is a classic SUMIF formula. So we want to say SUMIF. I always use the plural version. You can do everything with the plural version that you can in the single version. So why have two formulas? Let's just use one. So first argument is our sum range, what we want to sum up. We want to sum up this balance column. The next argument is kind of a criteria range where our condition is. So that is in this B column, it's our consumer ID. And the next argument is what that condition needs to say in column B. So it needs to say this consumer ID here. So syntax of that, we're summing the balance where the customer number agrees to this customer number here. We're also asked to round this to the nearest whole number. So let's wrap it in the round formula, round that, comma 0 decimal places, close our bracket, and that's our answer. Okay, level 7, we have 2 dates, an oldest loan and a comparison date, and we want to know how many months in total are between these 2 dates. So a bit like earlier, we could use the year formula to pull out the years from these dates. So let's say equals year of this date minus year of the earlier date. That's going to give us how many years are between the two. So it's just going to take this 2022 and the 2025 minus 1 from the other. So that's 3 years. So if we do that and drag that down, that gives us how many years are between them. Then we can do the same for months. So we can say equals month of this date minus month of this older date. And we get 8 months. So this is 3 years and 8 months. Now, of course, some of these months numbers will be negative. So we have 3 years less 8 months. So we just need to do 12 times the number of years, because 12 months in a year, 12 times the number of years, plus the month difference. And that is it, how many months between the 2 dates. So I hope that was useful, and I will see you next time.